How are your ministries doing? Are they flourishing? Are they tanking? Do you have ministries that you should be funneling more resources in? Or do you have ministries that you need to shut down? Do you have any idea how your ministries are doing? Well, we've been talking about over the last few weeks in a few episodes the SWOT analysis and how valuable a tool that is, how it can help you figure out exactly what you need to do with each of your ministries, where you need to funnel resources, where you need to maybe pull back and maybe even shut down a ministry for a season or maybe for good. We've been talking about the SWOT, but what we're going to do today is I'm going to sit down with Pastor Matt. Him and I are going to go into one of his ministries. We're going to perform a SWOT analysis, and we're going to look and see how his ministry right now is doing. So let's get started. So the big question is this: how do pastors like us who remain focused on the mission of Jesus and serving our communities without being distracted by everything in the world around us, how do we increase our effectiveness while living a lifestyle that doesn't compromise our health, our families, or our personal relationships with Jesus? That's the question this podcast is going to answer. I'm Dr. Brandon Party Cooper, and welcome to the Ministry Hackers Podcast. Welcome to this episode of the Mystery Hackers Podcast. So glad you're a part. So glad you're here with us. Once again, wonderful Pastor Matt Wasbinski is coming to us all the way from Michigan. The beautiful, very cold, somewhat windy, lots of snow.
Yes.
Have you had snow yet?
Had,
I mean, it's October.
We just had our first snow. Like, didn't stick. It was like the mushy rain snow mix.
Yeah.
But yesterday was our first it's gonna happen. So we're supposed to have one more beautiful weekend. It's supposed to be in the mid 60s this weekend. So good fall apple picking, pumpkin weather. And then it's just gonna be terrible for the rest of the year.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually a little jealous. So I've been seeing little bits and pieces from around the country, little bits of snow. And I described it to somebody the other day. I said, because they said they just had their first flurry, not really snow, just kind of a flurry. And I told them, I said, that's God's way of kind of whispering to you, hey, the winter wonderland is coming, so get ready. And they did not share my affinity for that, but
no one does, Brandon. Snow is really good in the singular month of December. That's it. Outside of that, snow is just a pain that no one likes.
I love it. I love it. It's the best. All right. So today we're going to do a little autopsy, you could say, on one of your ministries. Now you have several ministries under your belt, correct?
Yep. Quite a handful.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at one of those ministries, and we're gonna perform a SWOT analysis. Now, for our listeners, we've talked about this a couple different times. We've done a couple episodes on the SWOT analysis, what it is, what a valuable tool it is. Even one of our episodes, Matt and I, you talked about how you as a church, your church uses a SWOT analysis on a regular basis to evaluate ministries, events, different areas of ministry. So what we're going to do today is we're going to sit down and we're going to evaluate your ministry. So which ministry are we going to do today?
So we're going to do our prayer team. So we have actually a two-pronged prayer team. We have what we call backstage prayer, which is people who pray maybe during the service or from home. And then we have encounter prayer, which is your typical altar time, responding to the message, one-on-one prayer team. So our prayer team as a whole, we're going to take a look at.
Okay, so that's all one team, though, two parts of one.
Yep.
Okay, so for the SWOT analysis, what we're going to do is we're going to start with, and we should start with strengths, simply because we start with the positives. We start with the wins. We start with the thing that makes us feel good before we get into some of the challenges. And so for you, Matt, if you're being objectively critical, looking at your team, what do you think your strengths, your prayer team strengths are?
Well, numerically, we're doing very well. So across the board, there's never really
on the team, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So we typically will have 2 encounter prayer people and 1 backstage prayer person per service. And so we are in, to be stocked, we need about 3 people per service. And it is a very, very rare circumstance where we are not covered for both of our service almost every single week. So it's not something where it's pulling teeth. We're having people, and it's a good, healthy rotation. So,
good.
I'll add that probably as even a secondary strength. But the first one is numerically, when I am doing my serve schedule, it's not something where I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? We don't have anyone who wants to be on this team. So that's definitely a strength.
And what do you think? What do you think attributes to that? Like, why do you think you have such good numbers on the prayer team?
I think that one nice part about our prayer team is that there are two entry points. So, like I said, we have our backstage prayer and we have encounter prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone, literally anyone, can be on backstage prayer. Like, it could be your second week here, and you can not even really know if you love Jesus. And the reason that we have a backstage prayer is because there's no specific like one-on-one prayer with people. We're not directing anyone towards them. It's something where we ask, hey, if you could maybe stay in the lobby or from the back of the auditorium or even during the week, be praying for this service.
Got it.
So then even if our like theological stuff doesn't line up exactly or anything like that, like there's no, I guess, influence being put onto people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that makes it an easy on-ramp for people maybe who want to kind of dip their toe into being on the prayer team, but don't maybe want the expectations that come with, you know, praying with people one-on-one. It's also really great because like if you're not super outgoing or don't really like praying out loud with people, there's still a place for you there. And then we have the encounter prayer team, which you actually have to sign our leadership expectations, which is kind of like the closest thing we have to membership, where it's like, hey, here's kind of like what the church believes. You're okay with like kind of following like what we feel like biblically a leader is. And because we're directing people like at the end of service, like if you need prayer, if you want to talk about baptism, like these are the people. And so we want to make sure that you're in alignment with kind of what we're teaching, what we believe. But I think that's definitely one thing is that there is a high level of people who are spiritually mature that find gratification in the fact that they can use their gifts and talents. Mm-hmm. And then there's also a very low entry point where people don't feel like they have to be able to pray with people or have it all figured out or even line up with us everything theologically to be able to be on the team. So it's a very like wide net that we're casting. Mm-hmm. I think that there is a sense of spiritual need that I think people like. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of our other stuff, like not that, you know, I don't want to over spiritualize or under spiritualize it, but making coffee, opening a door, there isn't a lot of like spiritual meat from the outside perspective. And so I think that being on the prayer team is attractive because if people are coming to church, they want to feel like, same thing with like being on a worship team, like they want to feel engaged in the process. Right. And I feel like people are attracted to that. And then so they would like to join the prayer team. And there are just a lot of people who love to pray. There are a lot of people where that is something that maybe they've been doing for a lot of their life. Maybe that's a ministry they've been involved in for a long time. And so they feel really welcome and a part of that team. And so I think that we're able to hit kind of like a lot of different people and a lot of different groups.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other strengths? Anything else that you would say about the prayer team that's like maybe sets them apart from other teams at the church or even other teams that you're over? Like anything else that you would say is a strength of your team?
I would say that there's a lot of flexibility with the prayer team, which is nice. So like for our backstage prayer, it kind of like, it's a tier system. So like if you're on the encounter prayer team, you've signed leadership expectations, all that, you can still get scheduled to do backstage prayer. Right. So it's not like a level 1, level 2 kind of a thing. But like with backstage prayer, we basically say it's like a choose your own adventure kind of a situation. Like if you, like you're scheduled for the week. So if you want to, like in your daily encounter time, your devotional time, like maybe over coffee before you even come to church, if that's when you want to do it, great. If you want to walk around the building, if it's nice outside and you want to walk around the building, great. If you want to sit in the back, like, or stay in your seat and just be intentionally praying, great. If you want to sit in the office, great. And so I think that that's a definite strength because once again, kind of going to that whole whatever people are kind of comfortable with or it's in their routine, it gives them that opportunity to do that. Another really good strength is, I kind of alluded to it before, but I think we have a healthy rhythm. Because our numbers are big, people don't feel burnt out or that they're over serving. Typically, we're able to do it where you just have to serve one service every other week. So like if you're a second service person, then you only have to serve, you know, it's not like every single week you're getting a request to be on the prayer team and you feel like you're always doing it. There are plenty of weeks where you can just come and enjoy church. It's also a partial serve, so you can still attend the service.
Oh yeah.
It's not like kids or students or things like that where if you're serving, you miss out on the opportunity. So you can just come to one service because the prayer time's at the end. So you don't need to really show up that early. You can like sit with your family, and then during like altar time, then you can get up and then do your serve opportunity. So I think that also is a definite strength over other things where it's like, okay, this, I might have to attend one service and then serve one service, so it takes more out of my day. So I think that's a definite strength for that team.
Right. Cool. Okay, so then let's flip the coin and let's look at what are, again, objectively critical. What would you say are the weaknesses of your prayer team?
I would definitely say lack of training. So with being so, I guess vague is a good word for it, with kind of our parameters of what is expected or what we are asking of people, there becomes a lot of gray area where people can then also feel like they're under-equipped to do things. It's something that we're realizing, pretty quickly that a lot of our prayer team, I would say about 50% of them have actually phased on or joined the team in the past year or two. And so we went from a season of basically like these stereotypical like veteran prayer warriors, like,
Right.
have been praying for the past 20 years and like, pray in their sleep, to you have a lot of maybe newer Christians. You have some people where they're just getting comfortable, maybe praying with people one-on-one, or maybe they prayed at a different church and now they're just like they've been attending with us for a couple of months. And
Right.
so we're really realizing like on the logistics sides of things that we're a little bit shaky on that. And so I would say a definite weakness is almost like that protocol of, what do you do if someone comes up to you and says, I want to be baptized? Like, do you know what to do in that case? If someone says like they're in an abusive relationship, like what is your responsibility? Like, is that like okay, they came to you in confidence? Are you a mandatory reporter in that situation? Just some of those like priority logistical stuff that comes with being on a prayer team,
Right.
is something that we definitely could improve.
Okay. So what I wrote down on that is kind of a protocol ambiguity. There are protocols in place, but not everybody is clear on what they are.
Exactly.
Okay. What else? Anything else? What other weaknesses?
We are going through a leadership change, which is good because we're not going through no leadership,
Wait.
but we are going
church or on the prayer team. Where is the change?
Well, both, but on the prayer team specifically.
Oh, okay.
So our leadership on the prayer team is going through a transition of the person who essentially helped launch the church, or our campus, was our prayer team lead. And getting close to retirement and moving down south and all of that. And so it's a several-year process, but they just wanted to go from leading the team to serving on the team. So good, healthy, like the person's still around, good handshake, good handoff, all that sort of stuff. But the person who's now leading is someone who this is their first leadership responsibility in the church,
Right.
Newer to faith and newer to even leading prayers, and very ambitious, would love to learn and grow and do their best, but it is just a change. And so that is definitely something that is probably a weakness right now, that we were something where I could just say, oh yeah, they have it covered, to, okay, I might need to do a little bit of hand holding when it comes to this.
Right. Got it. Okay. Anything else? Any other weaknesses that come out?
I would say community is probably a little bit of a weakness. They're just with this team, just in the nature of it, we haven't provided a lot of opportunity for the team to be like growing organically together.
Right.
A lot of times for example, we normally need 2 people for encounter prayer at the end of service. And we have a lot of husband and wife teams. And so a lot of times we'll just schedule them together. They owe it. So like you might have one person where it's like every other week, second service, them and their spouse like are on the prayer team together. So they're not rotating a lot as far as like including other people. So we have some people where because they're a spouse or just because that's like their regular rotation, like you have
Right.
some people where every other week, second service, that's their gig, almost to the point where like they don't even need to look at the schedule. They just know every
Right.
other week and this is their first service or second service person. So they might be serving on the same team as someone for the past 2 years and
Mhm.
never even known that each other on the prayer team
Right.
because they're opposite weeks, opposite services.
Yeah.
And so that can lean itself to not feeling like you're a part of the bigger community.
Right.
And so that's something too that's definitely a weakness where there's a lot of other ones where like you're rubbing elbows with people, you're mixing and matching a lot more just depending on who's available. But because the serve is smaller, because you only need 2 people, and a lot of them are kind of already paired up because they're spouses or just because of surface preference,
Right.
you get to know that other person really well, but you might not know the whole team. So we have somewhere between 15 and 20 people on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And you personally might have served with maybe 5 of those just throughout the time, just because of which service you prefer and what week you're landing on. So
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So, but overall, it seems like if we're just looking at strengths and weaknesses, it appears that overall you have a pretty good team. They're doing their job well. They're serving the function they're supposed to in the church. There are some tweaks maybe that can be made from a community standpoint and from a training standpoint. But overall, you feel like this is a pretty good team, correct?
yes.
Okay. So then, with that in mind, and understanding what strengths and weaknesses and where the team is overall, what would you say are the opportunities? So, what are the things, maybe, the opportunities that your good team, your team that's in a good place, what are the opportunities they could maybe take advantage of? What are the opportunities that are presenting to the team that maybe you could move them in a different direction or in a better place or whatever? Are there any opportunities that kind of stick out to you for the team?
Well, I think with having a new team lead, one thing that, fresh blood always kind of brings in is a really great opportunity to examine why we're doing things or
Mm-hmm.
how we're doing things. With our old team lead, like our old team lead has been a part of the church longer than I've been a part of the church.
Right.
So they literally were one of the people who got us a campus at our current location. Like they were from so they've been a part of 242 since like before this campus even happened. Like they pioneered like helping bring this campus. So they like knew what like our DNA pretty well.
Right.
So a lot of, which is great on my side because then I can be very hands off. They know the vision, they know where we're going, they
Right.
know everything about us. But now that it's a new person, relatively new to even the church and to faith and all this sort of stuff, I think that it can be a good opportunity for me to say, okay, how many times do I have to say, well, this is like in the procedures or this is in the, and that's just because it is like, that's how the other campuses wrote it up, but that doesn't really apply to us or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that might mean. So the opportunity is with a new person coming in, it's almost like a fresh start where you're looking at it with, okay, like where are we lacking? Where are we excelling? All this sort of stuff. And you aren't feeling that pushback of, well, this is how we've normally done it and this is how we've always done it, because
Right.
so much of it is new anyways.
Right. Good. Okay. What else? Any other opportunities?
I think that one thing that we are moving back into is so this is a logistical thing that we actually were just talking about today, was when COVID happened, we serve communion every single week.
Okay.
And when COVID happened, we moved to the cups that are like prepackaged.
Uh-huh.
And then we also made it where you picked up your cup like when you walked in. So we have like a little like bar top table that has communion on it, and you grab it and you just hold on to it during the service, put it on the ground, and then at the end of service we take communion together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what it used to be was we would have tables kind of throughout, and people would at encounter at the altar time, people would go and get communion. And then go sit down or do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this could be a great opportunity because we feel like a lot of people during encounter don't move, which then limits the amount of people who go for prayer, because like if nobody's moving,
Right.
even if you feel like I need to go to the back of the room to get prayer, you're probably less likely to do that if you're the only one standing up and moving and all that sort of stuff. So a good opportunity for this is the fact that we're actually looking at either bare minimum moving communion around. So then, yeah, you can grab it when you come in, but also having it available throughout the room, like in the front and the sides. So then more people will be up and about, which I think will then bring an increase back to people. Okay, other people are moving around. I feel like I need to go get prayer. I feel comfortable like getting out of my seat and going and getting prayer.
Right.
So we're looking at implementing that in the next few weeks and kind of giving it a couple of months and seeing how it goes. But that could definitely be one where, we're trying to cause more movement, which could then be an opportunity for people to feel more comfortable to go and get prayer.
Right. Do you feel like that would create an increase of numbers for you on the team? Like, would you need more team members, or do you think your team can still feel?
I think they should be fine. And honestly, even if we had to add a third person, like I think that, like I said earlier, one of our strengths is that we could probably make that happen.
Yeah.
But right now, like honestly, our prayer team is severely like underutilized. So I think that there's the potential for that, but I think that they have a lot of bandwidth where, it's not like every single service we have 2 people and then 4 people waiting in line for each person to get prayed for.
Right.
So I think that, even mentally, I think it will be a boost for our team, because there are some times where like nobody comes back for prayer.
Right.
And then you can kind of get into the habit of like, well, why am I even doing this if no one's going to get prayer?
Right.
So that could definitely be an opportunity that we're trying to kind of shake people a little bit to make them more comfortable to get resourced with prayer.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Any other opportunities? Anything else that jumps out to you?
No, I mean, I do think that it's kind of an old opportunity, but it's a new one. Like the fact that we have a building, and we've had this building for just over a year now.
Yeah.
But kind of in partnership with having new leadership, like I said, we haven't really had any sort of trainings or even the opportunity to have like outside of Sundays, like let's get together and pray for what's going on at the church. Because before, like it's almost like a mindset switch that we're still really trying to work with. Because before, we would have to rent facilities, or we'd have to meet at someone's house, or we would have to meet at a local coffee shop. But now I can say, hey, prayer team, if you're feeling like our prayer team lead, maybe once a month on a Tuesday, get everyone together and you can have the auditorium, you can be playing music and have it open for prayer. Like, so there's a lot of opportunities with having a building 24/7 that our prayer team can then utilize. So they're serving outside of just the Sunday experience.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Okay, so the final one. What threats do you feel like are present for your prayer team? So what are the things that you feel like maybe could tear your team apart, or maybe lead your team into apathy, or possibly even maybe move your team in a different direction than where you're wanting to go? Like, are there any threats that are present that you can think of that, could maybe move you in a direction you don't want to go?
I would definitely say like the lack of engagement on a Sunday. Like I said, we're trying things like moving the communion around to kind of increase that. But
are you talking about how many people come up for prayer?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And so like we're working on it currently, but I could also easily see that being if someone goes a month or so where they're like, hey, I'm coming and I'm standing here, and I think we encourage them, even if no one comes up, you can pray for people who are sitting in their seats, and you can pray for like God to be moving, even if someone doesn't come up to you. There's more than that than just someone physically coming up to you. But I do think there's a real threat of someone saying, man, I'm accepting this serve invite multiple times a month. I am, I'm making it part of my schedule to do this, and I just don't really feel like I'm needed. Like, so that's definitely a threat where if trying to teach that culture in our church and at our campus of that it's normal to go up for prayer, that it's not taboo to go up for prayer. No one's,
Right.
it's not like people are going to look and be like, oh, I wonder what they need prayer for. Like that culture is kind of improved. But that is a threat on the serving side is, am I needed? And that also even comes with bigger numbers is, if people feel like, well, I'm only serving one service once a month, like, am I needed here? And then it gets very easy to become disenfranchised because you're not really a part. And so while numerical growth is good, we need to make them feel like they are being equipped, that they are needed, that they are valuable.
Right.
And with the growth of people joining the team, making sure that we're still equipping them and balancing that out. So then they're not serving for 3 months and saying, I don't really feel like I'm doing anything here, and then phasing out. So,
right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Any other threats?
I would probably say, the leadership change, I would say on two fronts. So one, I have full confidence in the person who is the leader now. But like for some reason, let's say like that they decide, hey, this isn't the right fit, or they, it just doesn't really work out. Then that's always a threat that like it worked out wonderfully, like literally like it was a definite God moment because like the person came up and said like, hey, I would really like, I'm on this team. I don't know if I want to lead this team, but I feel like God's calling me into a season of leadership. And it was well, we have a really great leader right now, but maybe you could apprentice under them, or maybe we can find a different area that you can lead in. Right. And then like within like a week or two, the other person came and said, hey, I'm really feeling like it's time for me to start phasing out of leadership. Right. So we were able to do like a good 3 months of like hand holding and transition and all that sort of stuff. So really great. So, but then, which also leads to another downside is I don't think that I have anyone in the queue besides just people who are just good. But like I don't have anyone intentionally lined up to if my team lead were to get hit by a bus, like then I'm just exactly. And so I would just be asking people, and people might step up, but there is no like, oh, okay, like next in line is this person.
Right. So do you feel like the leadership transition opens the door for team members to step out?
Potentially, but once again, I think something that is a negative that in this case turns slightly into a positive is because we don't have that camaraderie yet. I don't think that there was a lot of specific, that's my guy, right? And I'm following that person. Right. Like the team lead, like was someone who was a consistent face, filled in gaps when needed, was kind of like the communication person, like if there were changes or something special happening. Like for example, we're doing a worship night on Friday. And so like it's the team lead's responsibility to then ask, hey, outside of a Sunday, we would love to have people available for this prayer night. Are you able to serve? Like, and kind of talk to the team in that sense. Right. But it wasn't like I'm following that guy. And now that guy's not there, I don't know if I really fit in. So while that's a negative, like that there isn't that community, because that community wasn't like super intertwined, I don't feel like because that person is removed and that person's still on the team. So it's not like it was a bad, messy, like they felt hurt by the church and now they're gone kind of a thing.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, good. Okay, so that's essentially what a SWOT analysis looks like on the front end. So the back end would be looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and saying, okay, so how do we move forward? Like, what actions do we need to take? What do we need to change? What do we need to leave the same? All of that. And so I would say, at least for me, looking at everything you just said, Matt, so the things that pop out to me. Number one, you have good numbers, which is always good to have a solid team, which means that your numbers, so each serve point is not stressed for numbers. You can fill people in, all of that. So you have good numbers, but you have a lack of training, right? And a lack of training can, one threat possibly you could put down is lack of training does create the possibility for team members to feel disenfranchised, or maybe just feel like they're not connected or don't really have confidence in what they're doing. But I also think the opportunity, and it's probably a bigger one than maybe even you alluded to, is having the building really is a game changer for you guys, because you've been mobile for a long time. And so now that you have the building and now that you have that dedicated space, and because your numbers are good and you're not people aren't serving at such a high rate that they're like, oh, I don't want to do another thing.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you the option of creating, and I think you even said this, creating some sort of training event at the church to fill in that spot. Because
Mm-hmm.
you have good numbers, but you see this lack of training, you have a building that you can create a training event or create, maybe a weekly training sessions for a period of time. And because your numbers are so good, you may not even have to take everybody at once. You could,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you could do it all at once, or you could just do a handful, whether it's you or the team lead, kind of walking them through some training, 2 or 3 weeks, and then you cycle in a new group. Even maybe even just saying, hey, for those 3 weeks, I don't want you serving. I want you focusing on being trained, especially with some of your newer ones who haven't been doing it as long. I think that's it's definitely a possibility for you moving forward. And then I think your strengths definitely lead it to recruiting. It
Mm-hmm.
does sound like you have a strong team that people, especially anybody who feels any level of want to be on the prayer team or pray, or even some people who may not be, hey, I want to be a prayer person, but they're saying, hey, I want to serve, but I want to kind of serve in the background. The prayer team is a great option for them. And I think
Mm-hmm.
from a recruiting standpoint, because it's a partial serve, because you have a healthy rhythm, because it's a flexible volunteer position, it really lends you to recruit well for the team. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I think overall, looking at the team, I think there's lots of positive things, lots of pluses, and the minuses do not seem, at least to me, do not seem like major minuses. They seem more
Mm-hmm.
like tweaks, or I think the training thing is definitely one that could catch up with you over time. But if
Mm-hmm.
you are addressing it in the short term, um, then I think it's not a big deal at this point. And even the leadership change doesn't seem to be a huge threat. It could
Mm-hmm.
be, like you had said, but I think overall, if you were to step back and look at the whole thing, it doesn't seem like a huge threat,
Yeah.
which is good. I think your team is definitely in a good place. Would that resonate with you?
Yeah, I think that all those are good. I'm really hoping that this is a situation where my team can kind of go from like good to great. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like there's any sort of like this is a wildfire. People are running around with their heads cut off. Like what do we do? Or like no one wants to serve. Like I feel like it's a pretty good team. Like
Yeah.
people are showing up. People are doing what's asked of them. But like we also want to make sure, okay, are people feeling fulfilled when they serve? Are they feeling equipped for when they serve? And so I think that a lot of it has to do more with the long-term health of the team
Right.
versus like, are they doing the task that we're asking of them on a Sunday?
Right.
Because we don't want it just to be like, okay, yes, we have warm bodies who are showing up and are here. Like
Right.
we want it to be like you feel empowered that you're doing what God has called you to do.
Right. So then my question would be for you, what do you feel like are the next steps? Like what are the things that you need to do next to keep moving them forward and maybe take them to the next level?
I think definitely those trainings that we were talking about, just really making people feel equipped. And I think that can definitely be a two birds with one stone situation
Yeah.
where you're getting people in the same room who might not even know that the other person's on the prayer team. Because it's not like it's outside of their regular serve opportunity. So, like you said, even if you have 2 or 3 nights of it kind of spread out throughout the month where, hey, come to the one that fits best, you're still going to get, hey, I'm normally, I know you're on the prayer team. Yeah. What's your name? Yeah. I normally am first and third Sundays, first service. And, I'm second and fourth and I'm second service. And so, but that'll naturally build that camaraderie that you're a part of a bigger group.
Right.
And then also make people feel like when I'm standing here, like I never want our prayer team to have that fear of, oh no, someone's coming up to me. I hope they don't ask me something
Right.
like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, I hope I do, or I'm like, I feel like I'm guessing
Right.
when someone asks me either a question or
Yeah.
what do I do in this situation. So, I feel comfortable that most people like are very good at praying and kind of going to, God on other people's behalf. But, like you were talking about, just that logistical stuff, I feel like people could feel confident in that.
Yes.
Not like, I think I did what was right, or this is what I've done before.
Right.
Then I think that would be good.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Well, and I think at the end of the day, and I just recently did another episode on this talking about volunteers in general. Volunteers are the backbone. They're the backbone of our church. They're the backbone of everything we do in ministry. And they're also, I think that they are what creates the margin that you and I and every pastor needs to make sure that we're having a healthy lifestyle and spending time with our families, and kind of what we talk about, the pastor's dream life, that whole idea. It's really built on whether or not you have a good volunteer base. And so I think that having these evaluations and kind of looking at that and seeing how you can strengthen your volunteers opens that door then for you as a pastor to have margin in your own life and in your ministries, and focus on the things that only you can do. And so, and again, that's what we talk about here. And if you're watching this or listening to this and you're saying, hey, I'd really love to have that. I'd really love to have a ministry that's growing and that's healthy and that's vibrant, but then also have the margin to spend time with my family and my friends and have hobbies. If that's you, then I want to invite you. You can go to brandonpartycooper.com/more time, more money, and you can get a step-by-step guide on how you can start making that reality for you right now. It's going to walk you step by step how you can move from being overwhelmed and anxious and tired and exhausted in ministry to having a healthy, thriving ministry where you are pouring into people, where you're focusing on the things that only you can do. At the same time, you're going home and you're spending time with your kids or your spouse. You're spending time on the hobbies that you love to do, or traveling, or whatever it is that God's designed for you to do in your life outside of ministry. Because you and I, Matt, you and I both know life is much more than just the ministry we're in. And so if you feel like that's you and that's kind of the lifestyle you would like to move towards, again, go to brandonpartycooper.com/more time, more money, step-by-step guide. You can see exactly how you can go from where you are today to the lifestyle you're looking for while still pastoring, still loving your family, and still doing the things God's called you to do. So, Matt, as always, so much fun to hang out with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm jealous of your snow. I wish that you could send a little bit this way.
No, thank you. Well, yeah, if you want it, you can have it. Like, I'm not ready for it. I still need another month of fall. That'd be great.
Well, I mean, I'm jealous of your beanie because it's not cold enough here yet to wear the beanie. So,
yeah, it's like winter jacket came out today. So,
yeah, well, it kind of moves you from like Jesus to like a 1980s skater kid.
Yeah, I know. You got to hit all.
That's your emo stage.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. Well, it's always a pleasure, Matt, to have you here. If you are listening or watching, it's such a pleasure to have you as well joining us. Thank you so much for being a part of the Ministry Hires community, for being a part of this episode, and we'll see you in the next episode.